about Pastel is that it's a very responsive medium to your emotion. More so, I think, in oil or acrylic or watercolor. Now, there'll probably be people in those other mediums that would argue with me, and their arguments would probably be very, their arguments would be favorable. I would understand that. But I really feel that the human's first response is to get a charcoal or a pencil and make a mark. It's a very primal reaction that you don't have to set up oils, and which I paint in oil and in acrylic and in watercolor. But with the dry medium, it is so primal. It's a very responsive uh, um, medium to use, and it was the first medium that I explored color with, and then it was a medium that helped me learn how to deal with my specific way that that I attack something. I like to use those words when you're when you're driven to want to paint something or draw something. It
Yeah.
is a response, and it's a outside stimuli that's making you want to make a mark in response to your subject hitting you. So there's a dialogue between you and the object that you're painting and drawing. So it's going to necessitate an action to push back. So the charcoal and the pastel is a medium as a it's a for me it's a medium that's a point of departure to it's a vehicle to talk with. And so I find as an artist living in Philadelphia and have you know who's drawn for who's used the figure as his focus, I've come to that realization now in my life that there's a form of tension and pressure that I'm needing to exert. And I think looking at a lot of the work from the Yellow exhibition that I'm very happy to be a part of, and thank you, Dasha, for asking me to do
Yeah.
the studio walkthrough. Is that's probably one of the things I'm always looking at when I'm judging work is how is the artist. If I look at images, I want the things that I respond to is that dialogue that that artist had with the subject. And that's usually going to mean this idea of sensitivity and pushing through. And then chiefly after that is design, composition, and the unity of color. And, but anyway, I'm dawdling. You could
No,
ask,
that's beautiful. So that's why I
yeah,
hit record button.
yeah.
Thank you for finding time in your busy drawing and painting studio practice to talk about our yellow exhibition. And I
Yeah.
asked you to select several images to talk about and bring attention to what our artist created. And I personally big fan of your work and your philosophy. And you already judged one of the exhibitions for Red Rock, and
Hmm.
we had a wonderful discussion about your choices. So I thought that would be really nice to hear what Martin will see in our yellow exhibition, even he wasn't judge or a juror, but as a peer and fellow pastel artist who is promoting figure, promoting medium, and just the person whom I truly admire and respect. So I wanted to take a look at our virtual gallery and
Hmm.
have him point some images and to listen what he will see in them. So let's begin. Svetlana Fencer, gold.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I was looking, when you asked me when I was considered to do this and you gave me the gallery to look at, one of my uh, approaches when I'm judging is to look at all images very quickly. I go through them very, very fast. And then I take a break and step away, and then I come back and look at the images and flip through them. And I'm always, the thing about judges is you're going to be judged by someone who sees their work in your work. And I teach pastel. I teach drawing and painting, and whenever I'm critiquing, I'm always imagining, is it that each student's piece is my piece? What would I do with it? So the thing that comes chiefly in mind is the unity and strength of a piece that um, doesn't say much, but says a lot with a limited scope. And one of my first choices was Svetlana's piece. It just has this beautiful sense of silence. It almost sounds, you hear this painting speak. Um, and chiefly, just that very thing, there's hardly anything there. So it gives me that opportunity to be a part of the piece and let it, and she is giving me that opportunity to speak for it. So definitely one of the first pieces that I went to. I'm always going to go to the very large design, the big shapes when I'm looking at a piece. And dealing with the color theme, it's a brilliant tonal variation of the yellow that I absolutely appreciate. So, a beautiful piece that evokes so many things. And again, I think the big thing is great design, and there's hardly anything there, but there's so much there. And the artist is giving me a big opportunity to actually interpret the piece on my own. So, yeah. What do you think?
Very, it's very quiet, very calming piece. And
Yeah,
we dig deep in color theory on yellow, and it's very hard to call yellow a calm color, But
right.
but somehow, despite all of that, this piece by Svetlana has a very calming presence, and I
Yeah.
always admire minimalistic design. And I know the artist, and I love this series.
Mhm. I'm just always driven by that because again, it gives me that opportunity to speak to it. I'm not driven, I'm not being inundated by so much detail. And I do love a lot of articulation, but it needs to be done in a way that gives me the opportunity to kind of be a part of the piece. And of most pieces in the show, there's several pieces that spoke much like Svetlana's, but this is so strong. And again, I'm only going to judge because it's the things that I've tried to find in my own work. I'm always striving to take a very complex, either mental idea or visual idea, and say it in a very minimal way. Because I know that the work will be finished and someone else is going to see it and interpret it the way that they want to. So I want to make sure that I give a clear, open field for them to have that opportunity to invest in it. And this does it
Yes,
really beautifully.
it definitely does, and it's very mature way to look at your work, and you always wonder what artist left out. And here there is plenty opportunity for the thought, and I, as I said already, I admire that what she didn't bring
Hmm.
any additional details where they would not be needed, and
Um,
it's minimal, and it's it speaks volume. So
yeah,
like,
I think probably saying more would diminish the strength of it,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, no,
but beautiful piece. Absolutely great,
gorgeous
gorgeous.
piece. Congratulations, Svetlana.
Yeah, congratulations. It's like you and I are in the gallery just talking, looking at these pieces, right,
Yeah,
Dasha?
yeah, missing glass of wine, but
Yeah, I
uh,
know, I know, I know. I'm
too early here, but it's Vegas after all. So Albert
Yeah.
Handel, uh, very accomplished
Yeah, he was actually, to tell you the
artist,
truth, one of the people.
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
your neighbor. I was going to say your neighbor
Oh,
from the
really?
Southwest area. Yes, he
Is he,
lives.
does he live
Yeah,
here on
yeah.
the East Coast?
No, he lives in Santa Fe. So
Oh, 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 oh.
Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and
Yeah, for those
he
of you who don't
inspired.
know, I'm originally from New Mexico, but I live in Philadelphia now. So my studio, as I'm speaking on this talk, is in
Yeah, and
Philadelphia.
he's and Albert is opposite. He was born on East Coast and
Yeah.
moved to Santa Fe area.
Yeah, I'm very, very aware of him because when I first started working in Pastel all these years ago, in my late teens, early 20s, him, Daniel Green, and there was a third, Daniel Green, Albert Handel, Harley Brown, actually, and Burton Silverman were the four artists that were the contemporaries who were living that were the ones that were pushing pastel out of the shadows of it just being a drawing. You know, very much in the the feeling of Degas. You could almost say they were like the gateways to me to really appreciating Degas and Mary Cassatt and other pastel masters. So um, yeah, it's really kind of interesting to talk about his work because he was one of these people that I looked up to when I was starting out with the medium and would
Yeah,
collect some of his books. And I almost was able to take a workshop with him when I was 17, 18.
oh my God.
But I didn't have the money for it. Honestly, it was like, should I get this book on Sargent or should I take the Albert Handel workshop? And I got the book on Sargent. It's like, ah. Um, but he goes without saying, I think a lot of what we talked about in terms of Svetlana's piece really come to the fore with this one. Thing I love about Mr. Handel's work is his surfaces. Um, the other thing I love about a medium is when an artist can translate the tactile feeling of an object. You know, I'm from New Mexico. I know what it feels. I know what that rock feels like. I come from that. And there's something that when I moved to Philadelphia to go to art school a little bit later in life, uh, there was a term that we used in art school and it was called felt, have a felt quality to it. So if your professor came up to your easel and you're painting a painting of a figure and they looked at it and they said, that's a very felt painting. That was a moment where we just dropped our brush and we were done for the day. It was like we accomplished the thing. Because what we did was we were able to forget that we were painting and we translated the actual feeling of what skin felt like. So when I look at this piece, on top of the design being very beautiful, very abstract, again, like Svetlana's piece, there's a lot of just open areas of nothing happening where there's areas, those areas of nothing are actually speaking loud. What Mr. Handel has is he's translating to me as a native New Mexican the feeling, and not even if it's not from New Mexico, it's from my region. I know what that rock feels like. You know, when I first looked at this, I know the smell of that rock. And to me, on top of the design and the unity of the color that was presented for this specific um, competition, it has that other thing that I always love in a piece, and it translates to me the feeling. It transubstantiates. It uh, goes further than pastel, right? It feels like the rock. So it completely goes to that other area that I love in a piece. And that's really what I got to say a lot about the piece for me as a native New Mexican, that it takes me to my memories of my life when I see it, if that makes any sense.
It's beautifully said. I have not much to add besides what it's honor to have Albert Handel uh, entering our exhibition, and we had the pleasure actually him judging our Orange Show, what was in person in Las Vegas in 2023,
Yeah.
and he did a wonderful demo what is on YouTube for our
Hmm.
group here in Las Vegas. So I had the pleasure to watch him on several occasions to paint in person, and that's very meditative experience. I was just
Yeah.
listen one recording where you say maybe watching somebody painting is boring, and I quote, but I think it's in a certain way the way you paint, the way Albert paints, it draws, but he's painting for sure, and you do too sometimes. Um,
It's
Pastel
very
goes
meant.
beyond, yeah, pastel goes beyond drawing, painting medium, but like you do both actually. And
Yeah.
certain people will say you pastel because it's medium on its own.
Right.
But watching Albert create his work is truly a meditative experience, and he doesn't
Yeah.
say much when he does it
Hmm.
because everything what he has to say is on a paper. So he
Hmm.
leaves it on a paper, and the way what you were able to feel, this is 2D surface, but it get a feeling to us. It's amazing.
Yeah. Visually, it's stunning. I appreciate the abstraction of it. Again, the tonalities of the yellow, the variations of the complements of the yellow. Um, I'm always a creature of abstraction
Gorgeous.
in a, yeah, I love the abstraction in a reality, I think. Um,
And there is one more piece what you selected. It will be later in this presentation, what has similar design. So I
mhm.
will point it out later when we will get to it. But
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
congratulations, Albert. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for entering the
Congratulations.
show. Yeah, thank you, Martin.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's go to the
Uh,
next piece.
Tatiana
Ah.
Yanskevich, you can see
Well,
what I
yeah.
see.
Yeah, I'm biased because I am a figurative pastelist. That's probably the thing that I'm always, uh, you know, geared to looking at when I'm looking at a pastel. But currently, I'm beginning to get back into my pastel landscapes. But this really struck me because of this love of the the failure. Actually, I don't want to. It's Tatiana, right? I want to
Yeah,
make sure that
Tatiana.
yeah, I want to make sure that I pronounce your name right. But there's something that is very fauvistic. Fauve, it's not even the word fauvistic. Something is very fauve about it that transcends the sitter. We spoke about Albert Handel's work and how uh, his surface makes me forget that it's pastel and it transports me to feeling what the side of a rock feels like. This piece is a figurative piece and a portrait, being askewed and having these very wonderful designs within a face really bring me to this person who I've never met. You know, it's a very emotive piece based on a lot of those qualities. It has that that character of it that, I think the key is caricature. It's a form that is pushed and pulled to the probably to the feelings of the model that posed for it. And when I'm doing a figurative piece, whether it's a portrait or a nude or a part of a form, I'm always conscious of doing what Degas said and saying, he always said, when you do something, make it a little bit of a mystery, have a little bit of something wrong with it, because it's going to bring you back to that sitter much more effectively. And I feel that Tatiana really did that, keeping with the yellow theme. She does what I do when I find yellow within a background, I will put it in my form. It's thinking with color. When I'm teaching color, I'm always telling students don't paint what you see, think with it. You know, if you feel bored with the piece, interject a very uh, acidic, arbitrary color that makes you come back to the piece more actively. And I see that this piece is a piece where it's all in. Things are happening. It can't decide whether it's a still life, a figure, a composition, and it's just so unified for a lot of those qualities. And I love it. I think it's a really great portrait. It has a lot of things I'd like to do in a portrait, quite honestly. Something I need to do, put more yellow in a portrait. But it's gorgeous. I love it. Did you want to say anything about it, Dasha?
Just captivated by the sitter's gaze and the name of the painting. You can see what I see
I see.
in lines with the gas coat, what you brought up earlier. There is plenty of mystery and very brave execution.
Yeah,
Big marks, bold color choices,
yeah,
and just wonderful. I know
yeah.
Tatiana personally, and that's relatively new direction, but probably for the next past 5 years, what she's doing with her work, it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
Congratulations on
I mean, yeah,
fantastic
touch on
work.
it. When I see this, it's like the things I'm thinking of when I'm doing my figurative work. It's, to be very bold, I would say that the figure was a pretext for you to push design at the expense of maybe losing that figure. I see that there's moments where she's just hanging on by her fingernails, and that gives the piece such intensity. It's just hanging. I could feel that tension in the piece. So Tatiana, congratulations. I think it's a bold and beautiful piece.
Thank you for supporting our event and entering your stunning piece.
Yes, very stunning.
And
Ooh.
to the next, Shankly Tanabe Girl.
Yeah, this is going into that other direction that I don't usually visit. There's a thing that I do, I moved to Philadelphia when I was 30 to go to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and I came in as a completely different painter than I am today. I was very academic, and a lot of the work that I do is just this, I would say, escape from academicism, but a love for it at the same time. So I have a dichotomy in my life where I'm loving a very abstract idea, but the more that I go abstract, the more I hold on to my academic beginnings. And this is just a brilliant piece in regards with that notion. And the composition is just solid. Edge quality is beautiful. There are moments in here that I need to work on with my pastel. I see a piece like this, and it's like there's things I need to learn, things that I hope to incorporate in the way that I approach a piece. And I'm just talking about the formal elements. Now we have to talk a little bit about like the intuitive, kind of emotional elements that are driven by the positioning of the form against the background and the edge quality and the gaze moving outside of the frame. And it's just phenomenal that it not only Sheng Li's piece is not only beautifully executed and sensitively driven, but it also has that emotive uh, element to it that combines beautifully with those formal elements. it just really rings beautifully on all those areas. Um, a lot of pieces that are this highly articulated would sometimes go by the side for me, but there's such beauty and intensity with this that uh, makes me want to keep coming back to it over and over and over again. It's like I want to do more of these kind of pieces in my more expressive uh, pastels that I do. It's wonderful looking at all these pieces, Dasha, because there's all these moments that I feel like I need to like improve on my work when I see in everybody's piece. Or to not sometimes not improve, but just to add to what I do, you know. And I think it's because I'm always a student. I think some of these most artists would tell you that you're always a student, you're always learning from people. So I think this is a fabulous piece, and I'm so happy to have included it in my choices among all the many great pieces that were presented. What do you think, Dasha?
Thank you for asking. And gor gorgeous piece. And I'm trying not to say amazing again, but this piece has its soul, and I think like it's here two pieces together what merged beautifully.
Hmm.
It can be a portrait in its own right and a landscape in its own right, but they do not compete with each other. It's like by painting that background, artist not just painted whatever was behind, but kind of gave us look into the soul of a model
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and it attributes to her gaze, to her pose, to whatever is it called. So you're learning about her by her surroundings, kind of
yeah.
like it would be a very simple example, but like in Mona Lisa, because you're always looking at a landscape too. You're
Hmm.
always looking at a landscape, and I look more at landscape than on her face. And here is kind of the same vibe. Um, I love the piece. I don't know the artist, but I'm grateful what I had a chance to meet this artist through this piece and have a chance to look at it longer. So thank you, Martin, for including it
Absolutely.
into your selection.
Yeah, yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. Thank you for putting it in. Ah,
Alison Crary, Gilded Reflection. So this
yeah,
piece in design reminded me of Albert Handel's piece, or you can say
yeah.
vice versa. If I would seen this piece first and then Albert's, I would say differently. But when I had those pieces, like a small icons,
Hmm.
like when you're looking at a show, as an admin, as a person who puts together presentations, looking at the pieces, you kind of have technical job, but also as an artist, you're looking at many thumbnails, and some with strong composition, they just jump in.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is a great example of that. So this is my 5 cents, and I will I will let person whom we are talking to actually speak.
Well,
Martin.
I echo the same thing. It really, I'm always looking for the abstraction in a piece. I'm always looking for the design to get me into it. A design and then a predominant color with a secondary that guides me through. And everything you said, Dasha, is right on the money. And it does have those qualities that Albert Handel gives you um, that are very present. This idea of this relation of the tactile surface of the water and the rock. I think that Allison beautifully communicated that. So informal elements and designs quite strong. And in terms of like a kind of feeling, it translates quite beautifully. Um, that the tactile sensations of water and rock in a way that light hits the sides of a cliff. Um, so I think it really hits all the buttons, quite honestly. But first and foremost, like what you said, you look at thumbnails and there are just some pieces that just jump out. And this is definitely one of them. And like we looked at Albert's and his was very flat. It literally went abstract. This one is pulling further away, where you get more of an idea that this is like a kind of like a rocky kind of river winding through kind of like a canyon. And it's still, even though we can identify it more as of the object than something like Albert Handel's done, it still translates that, I think, the most beautiful aspect and the strongest aspect of an artwork, and that's that abstract design. It's a wonderful
It it
piece.
it felt.
Yeah. Has that felt feeling?
Yes, felt
So
feeling.
gorgeous.
It's the word
Yeah,
of the day, felt.
yeah, felt.
Felt.
Mm.
Congratulations, Alison.
Yes,
Gorgeous piece.
absolutely. Yes,
And
quite
I
beautiful.
know I know this artist worked a lot of times in plein air, so a lot of observation came into this piece. I would say so. She brought a location with her. Even this one probably was finished at least in studio, but
Hmm.
I think she put a lot of her observation times away with golden light hits at that exact moment. So it's not just
Hmm.
capture of photograph. She stood there. She stood there
Right.
at some
Yeah, you
time.
can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. Thank you for
Thank
entering,
you.
and thank you, Martin.
Absolutely.
And next piece, N.K. Spivey, Into the Wild.
Yeah, this was wonderful because I'm doing some pastels currently that have this approach. It has this beautiful all-in-one approach to it. There's not one moment where the artist like kind of went in there and just articulated too much. It has a very, I like to call them a piece that for me that's very successful, all done in one go. It feels so integrated and so solid. Every part of the
Alla
piece,
prima.
yeah, it just has this just there's not a moment of hesitation. Every part of the painting has had its attention, and it gives it that unity and strength. And I love the tactile quality of the medium. That's one thing I did want to bring up with a piece like this, particularly that the thing I love in a piece of artwork is when the viewer can remind me of the medium that's being used, um, but also return me to like the felt and tactile qualities of the object that they're painting. And you have that, there's a duality there. So there's a dialogue between the medium and then the object that they're painting that creates a tension that gets you into the piece. So I think it's beautifully handled, beautifully muted tones of yellow and green. And again, quite honestly, I chose this because I'm actually doing pieces in the studio that are very tonal like this. It's like that's a piece that I want to do now, you know? So it's a gorgeous pastel. And again, I love the tactile quality of the medium. It's very, you can feel it, quite honestly.
You definitely know what artists know how to use pastel and how to bring the best of it. Very beautiful mark making, gorgeous palette, wonderful design, atmospheric perspective. So everything what judge or juror will be looking for is in this piece. So artists
Hmm.
just check all the boxes and doing it effortlessly.
Yeah,
May we do not know how much time she spent on this piece, but it's very fresh. Maybe
very
she was
fresh.
maybe she was beating it to death and it got washed
Or did
75 times.
maybe, yeah, or did like seven versions of it, and this is the one that
Yes,
works.
maybe,
Yeah,
but this one feels fresh, effortlessly. You can breathe that golden light,
yeah,
kind of splattered, and you just wanna live and breathe this air, like it's a breath of fresh air. If I wouldn't see the title, that's what I convey, take away from this
Yeah.
painting. Thank you, Anne.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
you.
you. And it's a gorgeous little pastel. I love it. Thank you.
And next, Anita Midling. It was a bird.
Wow. This has that other that
If I
we're
was
gonna
a bird, sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna go on with that felt idea of depth. I think that really brought me to this piece is what really made me want to choose it as some piece to talk about. This beautiful sense of hyper articulation, but at the same sense, a looseness to it. And again, making me forget it's a pastel and making me feel I can really go into the piece. Um, there are things that you are doing with your foliage that I'm trying to do now. Particularly how you get the sky to come through trees like that. I am having a double of a time doing that. I've actually destroyed 3 pieces today that I tried to do that. And you've done it quite masterfully. It is a piece that reminds me of the work of it's a very a good has a touch of a he was a French painter during the 19th century. Um, darn it, the name is escaping me, but I need to be very assured that this painter that I'm thinking of is quite revered and quite honored. Um, and his name will come up. But it reminds me, he's the one that did the Gleaners of geez, it's right on the tip of my tongue, gosh, his name. I'm usually pretty good at this.
Yes,
Um,
you are.
but
Cleaners,
he did,
painting.
yes, he did. And
Mhm.
that painting is in the Louvre. It's the 3 people
Yeah, okay.
picking Francois
Francois Millet?
Millet as a exactly
Millet.
there it is has a very Francois Millet feel to it. Um, so take a look at his work, Anita. You're totally in his realm right there. It does look like a Millet painting. He was called the Michelangelo of the Fields. That was his honored title because he studied academically in the French Academy, but decided to go back into nature and be with the common people and paint them. And went away from the possible riches of being an academic artist. So he wanted to return to his roots and uh, paint the lands that he was born in. Um, so he has this beautiful. The thing about Millet is he has this aura of like a saint or a god with his work, and you have that feeling with this piece. It really resonates the feeling of a forest. And if you don't know his work or haven't seen it, Anita, go get a book on him because you are speaking his language or he's speaking your language. So, fabulous piece. Thank you for putting it in. And thank you for reminding me about Millet.
I Googled
Uh,
Benny Ziegler's
yeah,
stunning piece.
he did these charming, I mean, there's some pastels that he did that bring you to tears. They're just so emotionally driven. That he's probably one of those artists that I don't cry that often when I look at paintings, but when I look at Millet, he brings an emotion out of me. And it really is because he really identifies with the land that he's from and he paints it it transcends the paint and it becomes an emotion. And I really get that from this piece. So thank you, Anita. If I was a
Thank you,
bird.
Anita. Thank you. And
Thank you.
great reference of Millet. Anita now has a homework in it,
Yeah.
but it's a
A lot
great
of
count.
yeah, a lot of people don't know Millet was such a fabulous, beautiful pastelist. His pastels are just so beautiful. Very subtle, very gorgeous pieces. So thank you, Anita. And thank you, Josh.
Of course. Jerry
This is
Greenberg,
this is
three
so this
pairs.
is yeah, this is so fun to do this. I'm having such a fun time. Just the design again and the tactile quality. It reminds me of this still life that Richard Diebenkorn did. It has a Diebenkorn quality to it, even though it's much highly articulated than a Diebenkorn is. There's something very beautiful about the spaces around the objects that bring me to appreciating the actual objects. Um, that I find quite appealing. And I think just using Diebenkorn as an example is effective. You know, if you bring me back to one of the masters of composition, I think it's such a, a wonderful piece that it rings true like that. Um, Beautiful unification of the greens and the yellows. It just hums really beautifully. And then the secondaries and the directionality of the lines that go against those objects lend that tension and lend a beauty of movement through the piece. So yeah,
You
it
just
just
made me,
keeps,
yeah, keep you wonder
yeah,
what else is there? What was else on the table? So again, imagination.
yeah. And I'm a big fan of beautiful shadows that are quiet, but also have life in them. You know, I think as a teacher of drawing and painting, I think one of the hardest things to impress it upon a student is to put life inside of your shadows. Sometimes the shadows can be far more important than the actual lit part of an object. There's space in them, they can feel the atmosphere. And these have that wonderful feeling of that um, really place those objects on that surface quite beautifully. So Jerry is such a beautiful still life. And look at not de Kooning, look at Diebenkorn. It has such a
Yes,
Diebenkorn vibe to it.
I just looked at his tapestry and the diagonals a little bit braver with the composition. Um, my daughter is just having so much fun playing, but
Mhm.
I'm having so much fun also taking a quiet time to look at these pieces because our world is so fast-paced. You don't have a time to stare at the paintings, and we're going through piece by piece right now,
Yeah. And it's
and you
funny.
actually
It's
get the benefit of art, what you're supposed to do,
yeah.
right? Like
And
to enjoy looking at it. So that's what
yeah.
we're doing.
And I love the title, Three Pairs.
Yes, it's has a
There's
cheese in it.
yeah, two pairs of the strawberries, two pairs of the lemon, and there's one pear. I
Yes,
love that.
yes, very clever, very
Yeah.
smart. Thank you so much, Jerry, for
Thank
entering
you,
our
Jerry.
show, and congratulations. Stunning
Yeah,
piece.
absolutely. Oh,
Nancy K. Cummings, The Golden
hmm.
Hill.
Yeah, there were several pure abstract pieces in the selection. For me, this was the one that it's just the landscape was a pretext for the design. As far as you can take a piece without it identifying with the object, but brings you back to the object in such a solid way. I totally appreciate that. And the yellow being used at a very, very in a very, very strategic way is uh, quite effective. It reminds me of some of the monotypes of Degas that he did. He did some monotype landscapes that he would sometimes color very minimally, but it has that Degas landscape feel to it. 16 by 16 inches. It's a nice size for the Golden Hill. But
I'm just wondering, did she, uh, as we were talking before this about surface, right?
mhm.
I wonder, did she left the surface of the paper and that what we're seeing on top of it?
Yeah,
Because if
yeah,
so,
that's
it looks like it like what she used everything what paper had to give, but also allowed herself to leave it blank. Or maybe she didn't. I don't know, but it works in a design.
yeah, it could be like a piece of now I'm just gonna guess here. It could be that paper that is very abrasive. What is it? The sandpaper that some people use when they work in pastel. Um,
It's not a your art, or maybe it is. So we will have to ask Nancy.
yeah.
But my guess would be it's a slate pastel matte.
Hmm.
Uh, maybe, or maybe it's on tone surfaced. I do not know.
Yeah, there's sometimes when I just leave the imprimatura as my background in a piece. It just works. It just seems like a tragedy to put like blue or violet in there. It's like that's a sky. It pushes it back. And Nancy's wonderful way of guiding you through the piece with the red pushes you into space, using very abstract and arbitrary and intuitive color choices to drive me through a piece in a very not objective way is very, very effective and in a very minimal way too, in a unified red yellow composition. I can totally appreciate that. Um, so yeah, it's such a gorgeous, solid, unified piece that is driven by either memory or a photo reference, which doesn't really matter, but it has that strength that I love, that I sometimes do on my own. I'll sometimes do pieces from memory. It'd be interesting to know if Nancy did it from memory or from observation.
We
Hmm.
have we have a lot of questions to Nancy. So
Yeah, I know, right?
I like now there is a mystery what because we're working with a living artist who
Yeah,
can enter the show and who can speak with us, not with just their pieces, but with their words. We have that privilege to ask. So maybe we'll do the next
yeah,
sit down with Nancy and ask her to tell about the piece. That could be next series of
yeah.
events. So I'm glad we're doing
I
it because you need to talk to get ideas. And
absolutely. I find that sometimes when there's a piece that's very non-objective and abstract, it elicits more questions because
yes,
the artist is not filling in all the blanks. It's more intuitive, so it's going to elicit more inquiry, I think, which I think benefits the piece. It benefits the artist because they can evolve into a different uh, realm of thinking. I like to sometimes work abstractly for those reasons. That way, I can have people ask me more questions that may feed me to go to the next level, you know. And this is definitely one of those pieces that does that, I think. So, Nancy, I think it's a beautiful, solid piece. Great design.
planning piece, a lot of
Yeah.
questions, a lot of admiration. Thank you so much for entering it. And on to the next piece
Yes, yes.
by Tony Allain,
Yeah,
Shadows
this
and
was
Sunlight.
well, I
Yeah.
had to include one of the mentions, one of the award winners. Couldn't leave one of them out. And pure design. It reminds me of Maurice Prendergast. Um, and it just has this offbeat kind of purple thing going on. Beautiful use of the complements, the violet and the yellow. I love that. When I'm doing pieces, I'm a split complement painter. I love oranges and blues and reds and greens in a piece. with a little key of like of another color that is opposite of those complements, that little striking little colors of red there. Um, it's just a solid piece, hard edged, but is very effective in that. I'm one of these people that likes to have soft edges in a piece and will sometimes be critical about too many hard edges, but this works as a beautifully balanced, beautifully off kilter piece. Has a nice golden section design in it too. So what do you think, Dasha?
It's hard to talk about Tony Allain's work. Been a fan for years and had a privilege to watch him work and teach for our group multiple times and demonstrate. So, big fan here. I don't recall um, using Tony using yellow as one of his main heroes or his go-to colors.
Hmm.
And the way it's presented here, it's very unusual to him. So and very very tony in design, very surprising in a color for me. So his
Hmm.
design is authentic to him. His color surprised me. And when you know somebody for the long time and you think you know their work, they not predictable, but you kind of know what to expect. Like
Right.
this one of those artists, what when you see his work in the different competitions, he manages to out outdo himself in every
Hmm.
show. And I do not know, did he paint for the yellow show or just looked at one of million of his paintings? He very productive guy like you, Martin. So I do not know, but this piece spoke yellow to me
Yeah.
before it spoke Tony. And that's in this case is a compliment. So thank you, Tony, for supporting our
Ah,
projects and congratulations on your awards
yes,
and stunning piece.
absolutely. It's a jaw dropper.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. We'll have to look up your work more.
Kenneth
Yeah,
Keefe,
Kenneth Keith. Ah,
early morning south of Santa Fe. See, Martin, you miss home. Like you need to do
I
another pilgrimage.
do. I
Like,
know.
like
I
we
know.
we need to book you a ticket to
Oh,
Southwest.
I
Maybe Viva Las
know.
Vegas detour or something, you
I
know?
do. I need to get over there. Oh, I miss it so much. Like all of these pieces are like making me want to go back home. I mean, I
So
love Philadelphia. I've been living in Philadelphia for 20 years. And, before I left Philadelphia, before I left New Mexico, I wasn't a landscape. I dabbled in it. I was more of a figurative artist. And then I began to do a lot more landscape painting here in the East Coast because the colors are much more richer, I think. Not richer, but they're more vibrant in greens and purples and in very, very tonal, very warm colors, which there aren't that many in the Southwest. But then when I went back home after living in Philadelphia for years and actually going, I realized how much color was always there that I never saw and how vibrant. And I think how much I kind of took advantage of the fact that I was living there and didn't see it through that landscape lens. So every time I go back to visit my family who still live in New Mexico, I keep seeing the Southwest even more vibrant and more vibrant and more vibrant. And, looking at this piece by Kenneth, it's, I think the thing that makes me love it is exactly how we responded to it when you put it up just a minute ago. Made me think of home because I know that light. I know how it feels. And it's very, very cohesive in translating that to me as a viewer, especially because I'm from that region, you know. So that light happens. That yellow light happens in the sky that you don't see in the East Coast, you know, and it bathes that landscape in the same way. Compositionally, very brave. I love the fact that that mountain range comes almost to the edge. It has that beautiful um, golden section design. That's probably one of the things that um, obviously attracts me to the piece is the layout, the design, and also the sense of going deep into the piece. There's not, it just, the whole piece just has a rhythm through it that just drives you from the foreground to the middle distance to the background, having a yellow, green, a little bit of the red to complement to kind of push you through the piece. So I think it's quite beautiful, quite effective. And it resonates pretty much like the first piece that we saw, very, although a little bit more articulated, but it has that kind of quiet resonance that I appreciate in a landscape.
No,
What do you think?
you almost can, like, if you crop this, there will be Svetlana's painting on the top,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just mirrored, and there
Mhm.
is another, like, several, another painting, and it works all together. So, uh,
Absolutely.
great quality of light. It's one of the things what also moved me when I just moved to Las Vegas. We didn't live close to the strip as we are right now, and that warm quality of reflective light. Like I just saw orange, like I felt orange in the
Hmm.
air, the way light's reflective. And now I have blue windows, so my palette was like super cool for a long time. It surroundings do change you, and I do not remember where Kenneth is from, but the way he captured Southwest and captured that warmth of light and decided to enter this piece to the yellow show. I think it was a home run. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenneth. It's a gorgeous piece. Beautiful design, great articulation, beautiful shapes.
And to the next piece, uh, Yael Maimon under yellow sky.
Yeah, yeah, this is beautiful. I don't even own cats. I'd love to have a cat. But I love obviously the design.
So,
Very
Martin, by the
unified.
end of our discussion, you will have people sending you tickets
Oh,
to Albuquerque and
nice.
maybe kittens. So,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's like I can squint at this piece and it just loses the it's one of the pieces that I could look at and squint and it becomes this beautiful patchwork of design. But then you
you
open
see,
your eyes and it's this beautiful piece that has a gorgeous uh kind of hopscotch, a nice, beautiful back and forth of negative and positive. It's a very negative and positive piece. What were you going to say, Dasha?
I was going to say when I squint, but maybe it's because of my light. I have a light in front of me. I see
Hmm.
more of a cat, not
Yeah,
less
yeah,
of a cat, but more of a cat. It comes forward towards, and it's a
yeah,
great
and it's a
shape and great anatomy here
yeah,
too.
yeah. It's just a very strange and unique piece. I love pieces that have a very strange design to them. I mean, I, I mean, it's kind of like a diagonal composition, but the placement of that cat is such an odd choice, but it works really, really well. And it gives the piece, again, that sense of tension. And again, I can just, I look at this piece and I want to squint my eyes and lose the cat and think of the big design, and it works perfectly. And then when I open my eyes, without squinting. It works as a cat standing or sitting on a wall. So it serves these beautiful purposes that I really enjoy in a piece. And brave
Gorgeous
to,
piece.
yeah,
I
brave to do the cat in shadow. That's one of those things that I'm working on with my pastels is how do I make my forms against light have volume and character in the shadow. And I think this hums, it just glows as a backlit form, which is a very that can be a very, very complicated thing to translate into pastel. Maybe easier in oil, but pastel can be a bit of a challenge. And I think that Yale, you've really risen to that challenge quite beautifully.
Stunning piece. I'm a big fan and know again a little bit of the artist work, and she does know cats and painting them extensively. And from amount of work I saw, I never saw same two paintings. She
Oh,
paints
that's great.
almost she almost paints exclusively cats, and she takes care of like hundreds of them simultaneously, and she had not repeat herself. So every painting is unique, and not all the cats are gray, in the dark. So they very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful piece, Yale. I love it. Great design. Beautiful use of the yellow, especially the halo of the yellow around the profile of
Yeah,
the bottom of
yes.
the cat. That's what happens. That's what happens with the form backlit.
It's it's a fantastic tribute
Yes.
to the color of yellow in this
Hmm.
gorgeous animalistic painting with a great design and mastery. Thank you so much, Yael.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. And
Yeah.
to the next piece, we have a few
Oh,
to go through, and Avon Waters,
yeah, that
Lake Reads.
yeah, I think what we were talking about in the last piece that there's things that happen in a landscape that you see in in a painting, and then you tell yourself, that's actually what happens in nature, you know. And to have an artist translate an actual atmospheric condition to a viewer and bring them back to that for their own memories of what it does, I think is probably one of the most beautiful things that an artist can do. And I think that Avon, if I hope I'm saying your name right, just totally does that. It's much like the first piece that we saw by
Yes.
Svetlana. It has this very silent but loud quality to it. I think both Avon's and Svetlana's are probably the two pieces that just go glacial. They're just,
They would look great in a gallery together too, because we
yeah.
always think about uh, this is virtual show, but if we would put it on the walls in the gallery, they would look great
Oh my
next to
God.
each other. So
Yeah,
I always,
in a room that has violet walls, blue
yeah,
walls, boing, they just pop.
yes,
Um,
they
and
will
so
be.
I think this one it just hits really well. Svetlana's piece, the piece by Anne Spivey, uh, are the three that of the choices that I've chosen, which was very hard because all the work was fantastic in this show. And it was such you asked me, Svetlana, this weekend, you showed me the virtual gallery, and I actually looked at it the minute that you dropped the link. And I looked at it over and over and over and over and over again. And I finally answered you, okay, these are what I chose. It took a while to kind of think about it. And um, I'm a big, big, big fan of not being inundated, where the pastel speaks, where the color speaks more. Um, and again, a lot of the work in the show was absolutely fantastic. But my eye comes to these just because the artist gives me a lot of space to interpret something. And also, they translate that atmospheric feeling that I know personally that happens. And again, when an artist can do that, I think it's one of the greatest gifts. I have a similar feeling with drawing the figure that when you work with a model and you start drawing them and and you really get into it and they make you start thinking of a poem or a song or a drive you've driven in the desert or and I think we've all felt that when you've drawn something and or you've painted something and then they make you go away from them and you start thinking of another thing because of them. I tell my students that when that happens, the model's given you a gift and you go on that ride. And the more that you're on that ride, the more effective your piece is going to be. It's kind of like being 1,000 miles away in the space that you're in, you know. And this piece takes me there. The painting is a pretext for me to bring my memory of what happens in an atmospheric situation and lets me visit my own personal memories of it. And I come back to the piece and it just enriches me more and more and more. So beautiful piece, beautiful, beautiful piece.
Friend of mine just bought a painting from artist friend. Actually, she was gifted a painting from the artist friend, and she's like, it reminds me so much of Italy, but artist says it was painted in her backyard.
Yeah.
I cannot believe what it was. I like it's you want it to be Italy, so that's why it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a visitor in the studio. Have a visitor. So we have two more paintings to go,
Okay.
and I want to say congratulations to
Yes.
Evan. And now
Beautiful piece.
just stunning. And I had the chance to see his work in person. It's
Ah,
as impressive, or uh, even more as all pastel. So we will do another live show, hopefully sometime soon. And on to the next piece, Douglas James Stewart playing in the yard.
yeah, this again coming back to my minimalism, love of minimalism and strength of design and unification and a feeling. It communicates that feeling of a moment. And I can identify with this living in Philadelphia, quite frankly, as an industrial feel to it. And I'm living my studio actually, and I'm talking to you is in a very old part of Philadelphia that was once filled with a lot of factories and old machine shops from like the 40s and 50s. Those buildings still stand around here. There's even train trestles and there's a lot of the ghost of the past in this city. I think Philadelphia is beautiful for that, but it's also a bit um, depressing or sad in a way because you see the skeletons of our country's past here. Philadelphia at one point was one of many cities in the East Coast that produced a lot of products for America. So looking at this piece, I mean, I'm already talking, you know, Douglas, his piece playing in the yard has made me think of Philadelphia. And that's the strength of a piece that it brings you to another conversation. right? So I think the piece is a painting, but it also serves as this document of maybe a time gone, you know, and it has that almost dark feeling about that I love. You know, I'm a big lover of sad things, actually. I like, I'm a bit of a romantic, and I love, there's something beautiful about being sad. Okay, let's just say that. Sometimes it's good to be sad. Um, and
Definitely good for art.
yeah, it does fuel us. It moves us forward. And I don't know if
That's
Douglas was thinking of that, if he was working from this, from a memory of his past, but I think uh, it rings true because it makes me think about where I'm at here in Philadelphia and what it used to be, an era of my city that I live in that I never experienced, you know, but I see when I every day when I leave the studio to go home, I see the evidences of it all the time. And to have a piece like this that brings me to that is very powerful. So, Douglas, I think you did a beautiful job.
Thank you so
It's
much, Douglas, for entering this piece. Thank you, Martin, for sharing your feeling from
yeah,
looking at it. I'm not familiar with Philadelphia, but I can appreciate that design. I can now I want to go there to see it,
yeah,
like by listening to you and looking at this piece. I do not know what was in front of Douglas, but what I see is a strong design,
yeah,
great composition, brave use of color. It almost look like deconstructed Rothko here, or
yeah,
actually some of his earlier work before he fully
yeah. It has a bit
went.
of has a
Yeah,
bit of
yeah,
a Friends Klein to it as well.
yes, whom you kindly introduced me to. Stunning piece. Thank you so much for
Thank
entering
you,
it to our
Douglas.
show, and very unusual reading on yellow. So that's the beauty. What we see so many artists, and they all see color different, and the
Hmm.
warmth here has a minor sound, I guess,
Yeah,
not a high note, but that
absolutely.
feeling what you spoke on. So thank you, Martin.
Oh
Always
yeah, thank you,
insightful. And last but not least of our
Kathleen.
selection, Kathleen Nardofield of Daffodils.
Yeah, um, it has those qualities of like a Svetlana and an
Yes,
Avon, and
fourth painting for that our lilac wall in the show,
yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful piece, very unified, gorgeous edge quality, nice sense of depth. And it also resonates that feeling, you know, living in this part of the country. We have a lot of forest areas, you know, and I'm a desert boy. You know, I never really, I lived more in the south of New Mexico, not a lot of pine trees, a lot of mesquite. When I moved to Philadelphia, well, actually, when I moved to Albuquerque, Santa Fe, you see a little bit more of that. But more so when I came to Philadelphia, there's more in Pennsylvania. It's a very, very wooded, green um, state, which I've explored quite extensively. And Kathleen translates that feeling. I think that's what I do when I look at paintings sometimes. Paintings to me are like an opportunity for me to explore moments in my life that the paintings may serve. And this definitely has that sense for me. And I love the composition. It has that kind of offset kind of thing that I love to do in my work. Uh, Foreground, very interesting, leading me into the middle distance, into the horizon, quite gorgeously. So Kathleen, I think you did a wonderful job. I think it has all those qualities. And thank you.
And
You
thank you.
clicked it too
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
No, no, no. I was trying to find something and I clicked too fast. No, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no.
That's gorgeous piece and another gorgeous piece and use of yellow and interpretation of green actually here because artist went with complements, with purple and yellow to convey what was probably a very
Mhm.
green scene in front of them and
Yeah, it's interesting.
just left that yellow feeling
Yeah,
so they painted what they feel, not what they saw
right.
directly, and that what made you stop, what made me stop, and that's what transferred this piece from just the piece to the show entering painting,
Right.
uh,
I
what
just
makes
found look,
people talk about it.
yeah, I just found, I want to thank Dasha Jameson for asking me to be a part of this opportunity of looking at all of these works. Every piece in the show uh, was fantastic. I found it very, very inspiring to see how all of you used yellow in a very unique and effective way. Um, so check out my Instagram, Campos Martin 030, because you're probably going to start seeing yellow paintings because of you all. It's like, now I'm going to start hitting my yellows.
I will
Uh,
include your Instagram here when I
yeah,
will um, upload this video to our YouTube, and you guys will be able to watch it. And I will make sure I include in newsletter link to Martin's Instagram. We will
yeah,
see how he will implement everything he saw. Always a
yeah.
student. Thank you for teaching him on subject of yellow today. So.
Yes, thank you so much. Everybody had such wonderful work. I want to congratulate you all. Congratulate the winners of the show, and I want to congratulate those who didn't win.
Course,
I
and
think
to everybody who also had the bravery to enter and who
yes,
went on that journey of exploring color of yellow, because there will be in other shows and other opportunities, and we all just on a journey of translating that emotions, and we have privilege to transfer them with pastel as our
yes,
medium of choice.
yes. It is a beautiful medium, the most gorgeous of all mediums. All hail pastel.
And on that note, I will thank you, Martin.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dasha.
everyone. And I hope to see you soon.